Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Citte cittānupassī Viharati. Ātāpī Sampajāno Satimā. Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ. So greetings everyone. Welcome to another Wednesday evening with the Clear Mountain Monastery community. This evening, as with most evenings, share some Dhamma and then open it up to questions. People are welcome to put questions in the chat on YouTube, and I can see those here and then respond to those around 6:30 or so. For today's theme, thought to go in the direction of mantras. So mantra practice is something which some people might have some experience with, and many people might have no experience with, and just thought it would be useful to discuss very briefly just what mantras are, how they might be able to be used in a Buddhist practice, in a theravada Buddhist practice, and specifically to introduce what I'm going to call the Sati Mantra. So Sati is, hopefully many and more people will know, means mindfulness. It's the Pali word, Pali being the language that the Buddha spoke. The earliest records of the Buddha are recorded in the Pali language, in the Pali canon. So Sati means mindfulness, and I'll introduce here tonight something which we can consider as the Sati Mantra. So just by way of introduction to what are mantras and what role they can play in our practice. So the word mantra is a Sanskrit word, which literally just means a verbalization. In other contexts, it can mean a teaching. It literally comes from mant, which is the root meaning to think or to cognize. And the Sanskrit word and the Pali equivalent, which is manta, can mean an incantation, which you find it very much in Sanskrit sources, pre-Buddhist Sanskrit sources, the Vedas, etc. You find this mantras being spoken about as having certain types of powers that come along with them. And yeah, you actually don't find the Pali equivalent of the word mantra hardly at all in the Pali canon. You do find it in a Dhammapada verse, which talks about that the bane or the fault or the flaw, the stain, the mala of recitation or of a mantra is non-recitation, not repeating it. But other than that, and a few other instances which aren't really related to what we conceive of today as mantra practice, it's not really mentioned. But the general concept being one of repeating a particular word or series of words or a whole sutra or particular teachings can be very, very helpful in all of those different forms. So in the Mahayana tradition, you find many mantras, and oftentimes you even have all of teachings on mantras being spoken of as the esoteric door. It's a specific school of Mahayana Buddhism. Oftentimes it's framed in that way. So you've got many sutra mantras, including the Shurangama mantra, which is chanted at speed. It takes about anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. Some people can do it really fast in 6, but it's quite long, 550 lines or so. And oftentimes it's a devotional practice, that chant in particular. It's in the Chinese Mahayana tradition, it's chanted with the Chinese transliteration of Sanskrit. So most people don't even know the meaning of it. And it's hard even to trace back what the original meaning was, but it's powerful for many people. So that's one way to use mantras. In a theravada context, or for myself, how I've found this concept of repeating certain formulas, certain passages, whether it's passages from the canon, like what I have referred to as the Nibbana mantra. I have a whole video on that, which is etang santang etang panitang yadidang sabbasankara samato sabupadi padinisago tanha kayo virago nirodo nibbanang. So this is a stock phrase. I memorize it in Pali just because I love me some Pali, and I know other people do as well. There's nothing inherently necessarily magical about any language necessarily, whether that's Pali or Sanskrit or Mayan or whatever. But for me, I know the meaning of that Nibbana mantra, and basically this is peaceful, this is sublime, namely the stilling of all formations, the calming of all volitional actions, the cessation of craving, dispassion, cessation, nibbana. So reciting the Pali gets me out of one reason for reciting a mantra or a short phrase in another language that is perhaps not your birth language, and Pali is not the birth language of anybody, is that it has thus wholly specific connotations for oneself. So every Pali word I use is basically a Buddhist word for me, even though they have meanings which, don't have to be necessarily Buddhist. But yeah, reciting in a different language, especially a language which one respects. I love reading the Pali Canon. Can shift you out of a certain type of intellectualizing and tendency towards mental proliferation and really let the mind settle. And that's the point for me of theravada mantras, or the mantras that I practice to collect the mind. This is a practice of using thought to still thought, using directed cognitive perceptions to pacify perceptions, using perceptions to put an end to perceptions, using thought to transcend thought, using verbalization, whether that's internal or external, to really let superfluous and unnecessary and unnecessarily excitatory verbal formations and thoughts and all these things just relax and let one experience a sense of well-being which isn't dependent on a feverish compulsion to think and compulsion to speak. So reciting, okay, I'm not for this meditation period, or even outside of this meditation period, between every word, I can recite this mantra, especially if it's during a meditation sit. For these 30 minutes, okay, I'm going to practice giving up a certain degree of the infinitude of thought and just allow myself to play within these this one word, or these 2 syllables, or these 6 words, or these 15 words, or these 550 lines, whatever it is. And that allows the mind to settle if you take interest in it. So if people are familiar with mantras, perhaps the most well-known Theravada, certainly Thai forest mantra that people are familiar with, is a great one, which is Buddho, Buddho. And you can do that, you can yoke it to the breath, which is great, bringing things back to the body, or you can just say it in the mind, Buddho, which literally means awakening. It's the name of the Buddha, or an epithet, or appellation. Another, what people call the Buddha, is just someone who's awake, that which is awake, that which knows, Buddho. And that's the way that Ajahn Mun would practice with this mantra, is just coming back to that which knows, using the verbalization to say, okay, come back to that which knows. I don't need to spin off with thoughts that are superfluous, but just settle, Buddho. And that's great. That's fantastic. To the extent that you could ride Buddho to Nibbana, do it. Ajahn someone who may have been an arhat of the last 100 years in Thailand, who I'm currently working on editing the biography of his, being written by Ajahn Dick Silaratano. Buddho was his main vehicle, along with asubha, or contemplation of the body, the unbeautiful parts of the body. But this mantra Buddho, he would say, and I love this quote, he says, all right, he realized that at some point in his practice, he had been given ample space in his monastery to practice, but he was just finding himself thinking inordinately, too much. So he says, all right, mind, I've decided to cut it off, and now is the time to use Buddho like a buzzsaw and cut out all this mental crap. That's a quote. Translation. Not my translation, but yeah, so you can use a mantra like that in a fun way to just undercut the thinking process. And the more you're interested in, and the more you love a mantra, the healthier this can be. There is a way to use a mantra which is almost it can be stifling. It can be used, if unskillfully used, it can be harmful if you're just using it to make yourself shut up in a self-flagellating kind of way. So all of this is just a big introduction to mantras in general, and I'll introduce the Sati Mantra now, which is what I chanted at the beginning of this session. And the Sati Mantra, as I'm calling it, is this. It is the heart of the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, or the Foundations of Mindfulness. So Digha Nikaya number 22 is the main greater teaching on Foundations of Mindfulness. This phrase occurs 21 times in that sutta. And it really is the essence of this practice of right mindfulness. Many people say, come on, what's all this with extra words and all this philosophizing, or some other language or complications? I just want a simple practice. I just want to be with the breath, or I just want to be with Buddho. Come on, dude, this is all extra. And when it is extra, to the extent that it's extra, then let it fall aside. But a very good principle for our Dhamma practice is that we want and really need it to be as simple as possible, but no simpler. Is your one-word practice of Buddho really taking you all the time in all of your moods, with all of your conditions, to the place of stillness that you are inclining towards? Is your practice of only looking at your breath with no other supports really leading to a sense of ease and contentment and well-being that it should be? Or might you need a slightly less simple? Might you need some more supports for your practice? So let's see how many words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words, including compounds. But I'll introduce it in 6 kind of packets. And the mantra is this: Citte cittānupassī Viharati, Ātāpī Sampajāno Satimā, Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ. And the translation is, this is Tanisa Robiku's translation: one remains mindful on mind, in and of itself, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. So you can keep that as just a simple mantra, just recite it. If you learn the Pali, that's wonderful, because as I said, this is the heart of the heart, the essence of the essence, the pure of the pure, the distilled of the distilled practice of right mindfulness. Mindfulness, despite how it's often taught in modern circles, is not just you don't want to just be a one-trick pony with your mindfulness of just only bare awareness or just knowing. But this is the context for samma sati, or right mindfulness, is that one remains mindful of the mind or the body or feelings or dhammas in and of themselves, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. And I'll describe the different parts of these, the little packets of this, for you, for easier memorization. You can always look below in the show notes. I've got the full mantra, but I'll just be displaying section by section of it, explaining it, and not only explaining the meaning of each part of the mantra, but explaining a awareness-based shift, a way of shifting attention, consciousness, sentience, that takes you out of the thinking compulsion. And I'll explain what that means as we go on. So the first little bundle is Citte, cittānupassī, which literally means one focuses on mind in and of itself. So Citte, locative, regarding the mind is the citta, regarding or in the mind. Unhooking literally means to, passa is the verb to see, and anu is to see along or to remain looking at over time. So to focus on the citta in the mind, to remain aware. Other people even translate it as contemplate the mind in the mind. So citte, cittānupassī. And for this first little bundle of the Sati Mantra, I'll suggest unhooking from the mind and letting the mind move backwards. And what I mean by that is just seeing what is, this is pointing in the direction of one of these Zen koans, is what is your original face? What is behind your eyes? This is literally letting the mind move back. So chances are, where are you feeling your body right now? Where is your awareness? Oftentimes, for most people, it might feel like awareness or the mind is behind the eyes looking out. And it's always, so much of the day, it's forward, either into the computer screen, or into your partner's conversation, whatever so much externality and forward movement, this trajectory and vector forward. But this is a backward moving. What does the back of the head feel like? What does behind the eyes feel like? So citte, cittānupassī. So passa, seeing, but anu, along with and back. So knowing the mind. And again, this is somewhat just adding a layer of meaning, this directionality and shift of awareness, this space where one is knowing from, the subjective place of knowing. This is my own just suggestion for how you can play with this and find it interesting. But citte, cittānupassī, unhooking and allowing the mind to move back. The next line is Viharati, Viharati. And you can even do these with the breath. And it's a little bit, it might be challenging for people who are used to Buddho, with just one syllable Bud on the in-breath, one syllable Do on the out-breath. But you can do any of these with multiple syllables on the first in-breath. Citte, cittānupassī, and the final one syllable on the out-breath. Or Viharati. Viharati means to remain, or literally to dwell. A vihara is the name for a monastery or a dwelling place. So with this shift of attention, with the first shift, we moved back, and now allow awareness to drop down into the body, especially into the heart space. So behind the sternum, and Viharati, this place of dwelling. And again, this is just a suggestion. You can shift your awareness or just be with a full open awareness from the beginning of the mantra to the end of the mantra. But this is a skillful means. I find that is useful, is to learn what it means to do these shifts of that which knows. Where is that which knows knowing from? So we're moving back, and here, Viharati, we're dropping down into the heart. can awareness know the world from deeper into the body. So one dwells in this way. The next line is Ātāpī. So this is literally means ardent, or you can translate it as that which involves a degree of effort. The root here is tup, which literally means to burn. So this is the aspect of right mindfulness, which involves a degree of effort. And for this shift of mindfulness, I would suggest we've come down into our body, and now let awareness experiment with the boundaries of one's physical body. So just as a flame, you can draw the edges of a flame. It kind of looks like that. But a real flame, doesn't really have a boundary. And similarly, our awareness of the body, or the awareness of mind in the mind, where is the periphery of that? Explore that. With this shift of awareness, with Ātāpī, allow the mind to open up and see that perhaps, awareness is bigger than you thought it was. Perhaps the body, awareness isn't trapped within the body. So awareness is not in the body, as most materialists think it is, but perhaps the body is in awareness. Yeah, and awareness is bigger than the body. So opening up with this movement, Ātāpī. Our next shift, our next word of this Sati Mantra is Sampajāno. Sampajāno, which literally means alert or clearly comprehending. The root is ñā, to know, and we've got the prefixes sung and pa. So sung, together with, and pa is an intensifier. And with this shift of movement, this shift of awareness, of sentience, suggests we've allowed our awareness to get bigger with this burning, this expansive flame of Ātāpī, and here moving back into the body, allowing awareness to just fill the whole body with Sampajāno. Sampajāno. And if this seems like too much, if you're just thinking, okay, dude, I just want to stay with Buddha, or I want to stay with the breath, this is too complicated, fair enough. These are all just experiments, and going through this exercise where we're doing 6 shifts of attention, this is just the 4th, shifting where we're knowing from, where that which knowing is knowing from. It's an extremely good exercise for mental flexibility and for knowing flexibility, sati flexibility. And it's interesting. I find that this is a very engaging practice. Oftentimes I can settle down with Buddha, or often with the breath, but sometimes I can't. I want to think, or awareness wants to know from a different place in the body. And this is a good exercise. So unhooking back, Citte, cittānupassī, Viharati, dropping down, Ātāpī, opening up, Sampajāno, coming up and including the whole body. This is the shift of inclusion. The next line of the Sati Mantra is Satimā. Sati is mindfulness or remembering, and the mant suffix makes it be possessive, so mindful. So mindful. And with this shift of attention, shift of awareness, shift of sentience, I'll suggest just opening up to everything, both internal and external. So that's the shift of awareness here. Satimā, that which knows, mindful. And the final bundle of our Sati Mantra is Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ. A long in-breath, Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ, out-breath. Putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. Vineyya, putting aside, or literally putting down. Loke, with regards to the world. Abhijjhā, which is the inclination towards liking, that which moves forward after something. And domanassa, the distress or the dislike, that which moves away from something. So we're putting this aside, and with this shift of awareness, suggest with Satimā, we were open to everything. And here, with this shift of awareness, suggest being aware of anything. So if you can just remain mindful of whatever comes up. Right now, say I'm feeling my hands. Now, just, feeling of my shoulders. So Vedana is coming up. But now a thought pops into my head. And all of these are just appearing in the vast space of awareness, the open sky of knowing. So whereas we were saying this Satimā shift is one of everything, so knowing the whole sky, knowing all the clouds, knowing all the land, knowing all the water of awareness, this Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ shift is really just whatever. Okay, there's a cloud. Okay, there's a thought, there's a perception, a feeling, and just holding that in a very spacious, open awareness. So we'll recite this again, the Sati Mantra. So, Citte, cittānupassī, Viharati, Ātāpī, Sampajāno, Satimā, Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ. So one, and we can put it in the first person. So, or I can, or we can remain focused or mindful, knowing the mind, the citta, in and of itself, ardent, clearly comprehending or alert and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world, putting aside this bias which leaps after or recoils from different things. And so knowing in a more balanced way. And just bundle by bundle, Citte, cittānupassī, we unhook and just let awareness come back. Feel the back of the head, feel the back of the body, feel that which knows behind the eyes, is so less intently absorbed into and obsessed with that which is in front of us. Viharati, dropping down. So one remains, one dwells. This is our house, our body, our heart. So dropping down, Viharati. Ātāpī, like a flame, this burning, this ardency, this effort, allowing awareness to shift into an open perception, which knows externally. What does that mean, to know externally? The Buddha talks about it, at least half a dozen times, if not 20 times in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta and many other places as well. One remains mindful of mind or body externally. What does that mean? So we're opening up to this possibility, Ātāpī. Sampajāno, we're coming back in, including the internal nature of our body. Satimā, just becoming aware of everything, so fully opening up and seeing everything that's coming up in experience. And then Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ, just becoming aware of anything and delighting in open space that doesn't need to choose. And so this is an exercise. You're doing 6 distinct shifts of consciousness with 9 or so different words, and you don't have to use the Pali, you can use the English, but it's a fun mantra and it's a fun awareness exercise. But as I was suggesting before, we want our practice to be as simple as possible, but no simpler. So you will find, I think, if you engage in this in a really useful way, you will find that your mind does simplify. The mind does settle into one of these ways of knowing, or one or more. So for myself, this last shift of just being open to anything, staying awake and aware, the mind is vast, like an open sky. And whatever comes up, if I can get into this shift of knowing, that's great. And I'll just stay there. And then I can simplify. I don't need the whole mantra, Citte, cittānupassī, Viharati, Ātāpī, Sampajāno, Satimā, Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ. I can just stay knowing in that open space with a different mantra, say just Buddho, just knowing that which is, or with Sati, mindfulness, or with Sammā, rightness or harmony, or with no mantra at all, just stay awake and aware in that space. And really, when one can let go of the mantra and just know and stay there, that's all of this is a samadhi practice, but that is a real, that place of knowing is really a true birthing ground of insight and a real working ground for practice. So end my discussion of the Sati Mantra with that. And yeah, I hope everybody can memorize that. And it's not long. It's not long. You might not be used to memorizing things, but this can be your first memorization attempt. And come on, you know, it's not that long. You can do it. I've done it. Scores of monastics, scores of lay people since the time of the Buddha have memorized it, and in Pali. That's another thing about going back to this original language, is that there's a thread going back to the time of the Buddha. And I can very much believe that this, or a slightly different pronunciation of each of these words, was said by the Buddha on numerous occasions. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing to recollect for me. But I'm a Buddhist and I'm biased. So yeah, so we can open it up to questions. If anyone has any questions, you can type them into the chat, and that will be great to hear from people. So we got people zooming in from all over the place, including Ayatata Loka. Wow, if you're still here, I'm blessed and touched that you would join in. So Ayatata Loka, who is the abbess, very senior bhikkhuni, who has a number of monasteries that she looks after, Dhammadharini outside of Santa Rosa, and another monastery, the name I'm forgetting at the moment. Somebody can type it in, but here's Aya's point. So for years, my quote mantra was a shorter version of this, just Ātāpī Sampajāno Satimā, Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ, Viharati. Very good to remember. Aya, thank you so much for sharing that. And please, so happy that you could join tonight. And Ajahn Nisabo and I would love to have an interview with you at some point. So we'll formally put that in an email soon. But thank you for zooming in and watching on YouTube. So Ajahn, could you please demonstrate the proper cadence if we were to chant the mantra? I can. So Pali, Chinese is a monosyllabic language, which really lends itself to ease of in and out breath. So Namo haladana dola yaye namo oliye. Each of these is one syllable, and that makes a Chinese mantra very easy to yoke with the breath, which is a very good thing to do. But Pali doesn't lend itself so easily to that, because we've got these short and long vowels. I'll just pronounce it for you once and suggest how you can do it with the in and out breath as I've practiced with it. So Citte, cittānupassī, Viharati, Ātāpī, Sampajāno, Satimā, Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ. And now with the in and out cadence. Citte, cittānupassī, Viharati, Ātāpī, Sampajāno, Satimā, Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ. It's a little bit hard to do when you're saying it out loud, but with the breath internally, that's how I do it. Very good question. Can you please break down the last word more slowly? Yes, that is Vineyya, so having abandoned or putting aside loke with regards to the world. Abhijjha, so the two words, basically, this final compound, abhijjhādomanassaṃ, and it's in the accusative case, so that's why you have the sung ending. So the word abhijjha, I believe, has the root of ja, which is to either to think or to burn, and abhi is that which moves forward or an intensifier. So it literally means craving. So oftentimes you can't totally come up with the meaning of a word just from looking at the meaning of the prefix and the root. But abhijjha means craving or covetousness or greed. In domanassa, the root here is man, like a mantra, and also like mana, or the mind, manas. And here we have domanassa, which is the prefix do, like dukkha. So that which is a bad mind, or it doesn't have the same kind of moralistic haranguings as exist in the English bad mind, but just a mind which has soured a bit. It's the mind which is dejected, a mind which is full of distress and inclining away from. So good question. Warmest greetings, Ajahns. Thank you for this gift. What do you think of this as a Pali mantra? Sabbe satta sada hontu, avera sukha jivino, katang punyang palang maihang sabbe bhage bhavantu te. That is a fantastic mantra, Joseph. Yeah, for myself, what makes a good mantra is if it's in the Pali Canon, if it occurs multiple times in the Pali Canon, and if I can find a way to yoke it with the breath. And really, you can do that with anything if you're creative about it. And I don't know how frequent this is in the Pali Canon, but sabbe satta sada hontu. So this is a wish. So may all beings always be sabbe satta sada hontu avera sukha jivino. May all beings always live happily without aversion. Katang punya palang maihang. So the fruit of the punya or merit which has been done by me, may a share of that, a buggy of all that, go to you. Beautiful, Joseph. Thank you. Yeah, that would be a fantastic mantra. I might take that up or something similar. Another one which comes up, which you can find in the Abhijjhagiri and Amarvati chanting books, Clear Mountain chanting book, is this ahang sukito homi, which means may I be happy, may I be free from stress and pain. So you can look that up in the Amarvati Abhijjhagiri chanting book, but that one I think occurs a few more times in the Pali. So I might select that just because I've got this affinity with the Pali Canon. But what your version has, which the Pali Canon version doesn't have, is this, I think it's an imperative case, the hontu, which literally means may there be, or may you be, bhavantu, hontu, which you don't find so much in this way in the Pali Canon, but it's a beautiful wish. So way to go. And I encourage everybody to experiment with mantras and find what works for you, because there are 84,000 Dharma doors, and yeah, we can't have somebody telling us what the optimal one is for us all the time. So be creative. Take interest in your meditation. Ajahn Pasano uses the word chanda, which is part of concentration, part of right effort. You need to have interest. He translates this chanda, which is wholesome desire, as interest. You need to have interest in the practice. Ajahn, I know this by heart because it's part of the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta. If this means, Malika, that you have the whole Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta memorized, way to go. It's totally doable. I have memorized parts of it, and at some point in the future, I will memorize the whole thing as well, I think. But yeah, it occurs 21 times in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta. It's what Bhante Nalio calls the definition of the Satipaṭṭhāna. And just going back, Ajahn Nisabho saved me. The name of Ayattatthha other monastery is Aranya Bodhi, which is also maybe near Jenner, California, so somewhere between, maybe midway between Ukiah and the Bay Area, so north of San Francisco, Aranya Bodhi. I haven't been there myself. I have been to Dhammajarini, fantastic places people should visit, and always support the bhikkhunis there and Venerable Ayattatthha. Sometimes when I see monks, whenever I pay respects to them, tears start flowing continuously. This is embarrassing. How do you deal with this, Bhante? Um, I'm sorry to hear that, because it sounds like it's a natural upwelling of piti. You have one of the, which is rapture, and you find this in Christian texts as well. And I think it's just a wholesome consequence of having developed positive connotations around a perception. So hopefully you get it with bhikkhunis as well, with monks and nuns. But if it is embarrassing in public, I always find it somewhat endearing when I'm speaking to someone, and I don't find it disturbing, because I feel like it's pointing to something poignant and important coming up if I'm talking to someone and tears arise. And maybe because I'm a monk, I only have this data set of one, but yeah, it's not uncommon that I'm speaking with someone and tears come up in their eyes. And I think it's a lot of the parami, the force of the Sangha over all these generations, the color of the robes I'm wearing, my haircut, they all point to this thing which is in the heart of hearts of many, many people. So, but if you don't want to do it, again, you shouldn't necessarily have to feel any kind of shame around it. My eyes would tear up when I am talking to some of my monastic teachers, quite easily actually as well. But if it is embarrassing, something which Ajahn Tanisaro says you can do, if you are, it's slightly different, but if you are finding something hilarious that you shouldn't find hilarious. So someone has said something which you think is just so funny, but for whatever social considerations, it's not appropriate to laugh or even to smile. Then you can pay attention to the earth element in your core. So this space behind the belly button, like 2 inches down, you can pay attention to the earth element there, and it kind of grounds awareness and can disincline one both from inappropriate laughter and tears, I think. So I haven't totally tested it with tears. It might make you, experiment. Let me know how that goes. The shifting of attention you mentioned seems like it would pair well with the observing changes in perceptions within the different realms. Could you comment on this? Yes, it very much does. So in particular, I think Mary is talking about the formless realms. So oftentimes these are understood to be formless jhanas. So the sphere of infinite space, the sphere of infinite consciousness, the sphere of nothingness, and the perception of the animitta samadhi, the samadhi which does not have an object. So I feel that this Ātāpī, this opening up to an awareness, a burning, the flame outside of one's body, that is like opening up to infinite space. And again, everyone who has an inclination should listen to Bhante Zanalio's guided meditations on emptiness and compassion. And if you have the time and inclination, read the whole book. But he talks about these not having to be jhana attainments, but being just perceptions you can cultivate. So this perception of infinite, or even a better word for ananta, is boundless space. So this is the opening of Ātāpī. Sampajāno is when you include the body with that. So that's, and then Sampajāno Satimā is this open awareness of both internal and external. That can be related to the sphere of infinite or boundless consciousness. You're knowing both internally and externally, and internally and externally. And then this Vineyya loke abhijjhādomanassaṃ, just letting go of any tendency towards, taking up an object, just watching the clouds of objects, feelings, and thoughts as they appear, just watching them. That's either analogous to I think it's more analogous to this sphere or the perception of animitta samadhi, so the collectiveness which does not have an object. As for the sphere of nothingness, let's look more deeply into that. So unfortunately, that's time. So we didn't have that many more questions, but I invite everyone now to go over to Zoom. It's been a pleasure being with people here on YouTube, but each evening after the YouTube talks, we move over to Zoom for a more interactive experience, and I put the meeting in the show notes and as a text and right here on the screen. So you can go there and we can continue interacting over there. And Ajahn Nisabo will be teaching as usual at St. Mark's this Saturday, and he'll be having a very interesting conversation, I think, with Professor Solomon at University of Washington, Seattle, who's a scholar of Gandhara, which is an ancient Indian language, and there are lots of Gandhari scriptures which have been found in recent years. So he'll be talking with him live next week, I believe, on Wednesday, and then I'll be coming up to Seattle next Thursday. So maybe I'll see many of you then. But in any case, I wish everyone the best, and hope you all have a very good evening and blessed and wonderful mantras.
I wanted to talk today about mindfulness, and this has become a pretty hot term in the last few decades. Remember wandering through an airport, which is always an interesting experience as a monk. I believe some people tried to sell one of a fellow monk a perfume named Samsara. But one nice thing was I did go into a bookstore